Have you ever wondered why some INFJ women seem to carry an invisible weight on their shoulders? Today, we're going to explore the topic of emotional trauma. It's a prevalent issue among INFJ women, yet the signs are often overlooked. They can be subtle, almost imperceptible, but once you understand them, you're better equipped to provide the right support. These invisible wounds tell a story of resilience and strength. Now, without further ado, let's delve into the first sign. The first sign is an overwhelming sense of empathy. INFJ women are naturally empathetic, often feeling the emotions of those around them as deeply as their own. However, when emotional trauma comes into play, this empathy can become consuming. It's like a tide that's constantly pulling them under, leading to a profound sense of emotional exhaustion. They can find themselves drained, struggling to separate their feelings from those of others. This can be a heavy burden to bear. Now, moving on to the second sign. Next up is an intense fear of abandonment. The emotional trauma can sometimes manifest in INFJ women as a deep-seated fear of being left alone. This fear can lead to a tendency to cling to relationships, even when they're not healthy or beneficial. It's as if the thought of being alone is more daunting than staying in a situation that isn't good for them. This fear can be overwhelming and can dominate their relationships, casting a shadow over their interactions with others. Let's proceed to the third sign. The third sign is a profound inability to trust. Emotional trauma can shatter the trust of an INFJ woman. She may become like a fortress, with walls built high and thick to protect her vulnerable heart. It's not about being cold or distant, it's a survival mechanism. Trust, for her, becomes a luxury she can't afford, because past experiences have taught her the cost can be too high. This struggle to open up and trust can feel isolating. Now, let's explore the fourth sign. The fourth sign is hypersensitivity. Emotional trauma can amplify an INFJ woman's sensitivity to an intense degree. This heightened sensitivity can cause her to react excessively to criticism or conflict, even when it's constructive or minor in nature. It's like living with an emotional amplifier constantly turned up, where every word or action can feel like an attack. This hypersensitivity isn't a character flaw, but a response to past trauma. Moving on, let's look at the fifth sign. The fifth sign is a difficulty in setting boundaries. This hurdle can be particularly challenging for INFJ women who have experienced emotional trauma. They often struggle to delineate their personal space, both emotionally and physically. Not setting clear boundaries can lead to a host of problems. You may find yourself overextending, constantly giving more of yourself than you can afford. This can manifest in always saying yes when you want to say no, taking on other people's problems as your own, or even neglecting your own needs and desires. It's important to understand that boundaries are not about being selfish or unkind. They're about self-preservation. They're like invisible lines that help you maintain a healthy relationship with yourself and others. So, if you find it tough to establish boundaries, it might be a sign of unresolved emotional trauma. But remember, recognizing the issue is the first step towards healing. Finally, let's examine the sixth sign. The sixth and last sign is a detachment from self. When emotional trauma strikes, INFJ women may find themselves disconnecting from their feelings and identities. This isn't a simple case of feeling out of sorts. It's more like being a passenger in your own life, observing instead of participating. It's a protective mechanism, a way to avoid pain by distancing oneself from the source of it, the self. Imagine a once vibrant painting, now fading. The colors that used to define it are now a dull, muted mix. That's what it's like to experience this sense of detachment. The vibrancy of emotions, the clarity of identity, all seem to fade into a gray haze. This detachment can lead to a feeling of emptiness, as if a vital part of oneself has been lost. The passion, the drive, the sense of self that once fueled an INFJ woman may seem distant, even unrecognizable. Now that we've looked at all 6 signs, let's take a moment to reflect on what we've learned. These 6 signs, overwhelming empathy, fear of abandonment, inability to trust, hypersensitivity, difficulty in setting boundaries, and detachment from self, paint a picture of the invisible emotional trauma that many INFJ women bear. Each sign is a cry for understanding and a call to action. It's crucial that we recognize these signs, not just in others, but also in ourselves. Addressing emotional trauma is a journey, often long and arduous, but necessary. Remember, the first step to healing is acknowledging the pain. Let's be kinder to ourselves and to the INFJ women in our lives.